What happens when a TV host calls out someone's lies in just 57 seconds? A complete meltdown, shouting matches, and a dramatic storm-off that left everyone in the studio with their mouths hanging open. Before we dive into this explosive confrontation, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now for daily videos exposing the royal family's darkest scandals. You won't want to miss what we uncover. Last night on the Norton show, what started as a simple chat turned into one of the most shocking moments in British television history. Meghan Markle sat down on that famous red couch expecting softball questions and praise, but Norton had other plans. By the end of the night, security would be involved, the audience would be gasping, and Meghan would storm off the set in a fury that nobody saw coming. The studio lights were bright and hot as Meghan walked onto the stage wearing a designer dress that probably cost more than most people's cars. She waved to the audience with that practiced smile she always does, the one that looks perfect but somehow doesn't quite reach her eyes. Graham stood up to greet her, shaking her hand as the crowd clapped politely. Some people cheered, but it wasn't the massive welcome she clearly expected. You could see it on her face for just a split second, that flash of annoyance before the smile came back. "Meghan, lovely to have you here," Graham said as they both sat down. His voice was friendly enough, but anyone who watches his show regularly could tell something was different. There was an edge there, a sharpness hiding behind the Irish charm. "Thank you so much for having me, Graham," Meghan replied, crossing her legs and settling into the couch like she owned it. "It's wonderful to be here with you." Graham picked up his cards and glanced at them briefly. "So, you've been quite busy lately. New projects, new interviews, lots to talk about." "Yes, absolutely," Meghan jumped in quickly, her voice getting that rehearsed quality it always has when she's about to launch into a prepared speech. "I've been working on some really important initiatives focusing on women's empowerment and social justice. It's been such a fulfilling journey for me." Right. Graham nodded. But he wasn't really listening to her answer. He was watching her, studying her in that way he does when he's about to pounce. "Before we get into all that, I think we need to address something that's been bothering quite a lot of people." Meghan's smile froze, just for a second, but everyone saw it. "Oh, what's that?" Graham leaned forward slightly, his tone still casual but his words carefully chosen. "Well, there's been some confusion about various things you've said over the years, things that don't quite add up when you check the facts." The audience got very quiet. You could feel the tension suddenly filling the room like someone had turned up the heat. Meghan laughed, but it sounded forced and uncomfortable. "I'm not sure what you mean, Graham. I've always been very honest about my experiences." "Have you, though?" Graham asked. And now the friendly mask was starting to slip. "Because I've got a whole list here of things you've claimed that simply aren't true. Should we go through them?" Meghan's face changed. The smile disappeared completely, and her eyes went hard. "I think that's quite rude, actually. I came here tonight expecting a respectful conversation, not to be attacked." "Attacked?" Graham repeated, raising his eyebrows. "I haven't attacked anyone. I've asked a question. If you've been honest, then you should have no problem answering it." "I don't appreciate your tone," Meghan said, her voice getting sharper. She shifted in her seat, uncrossing and recrossing her legs, a clear sign she was getting uncomfortable. Graham wasn't backing down. He picked up one of his cards and read from it. "You claimed in your big interview that you and Harry were married 3 days before the actual wedding ceremony. The Archbishop of Canterbury himself came out and said that wasn't true, that what you had was a private exchange of vows, not a legal marriage. So why did you say you were married when you weren't?" The audience made a collective "ooh" sound. Meghan's jaw clenched. "That was our truth. That was how we felt about it. But it wasn't the truth, was it?" Graham pressed. "It was a feeling, maybe, but you presented it as a fact. You said we got married 3 days before, not we felt married, or we had a private ceremony. You made it sound like the big wedding everyone watched was fake." "The Archbishop didn't understand what I meant," Meghan said quickly, her words coming out faster now. "It was taken out of context. He literally performed your wedding ceremony," Graham said flatly. "I think he'd know better than anyone whether he married you 3 days early or not. He said he didn't. He said it would have been illegal for him to do that." Meghan's cheeks were getting red now. "Look, I don't know why you're doing this. I came here to talk about my work, my projects, the positive things I'm doing in the world. And we'll get to that," Graham said. But his voice said they definitely wouldn't. But first, let's talk about the other claims. You said you had no help planning the wedding, that you did everything yourself with no support from the palace. That's right, Meghan said firmly. Except that's not right either, is it? Graham flipped to another card. There were multiple palace aides assigned to help you. There was an entire team of people working on that wedding. One of them even came forward and said they worked 70-hour weeks helping you plan every detail. I meant emotional support. Meghan backtracked quickly. I had no emotional support during that time. That's not what you said, though, Graham countered. You specifically said you had to do everything yourself, that nobody helped you. You made it sound like you were Cinderella scrubbing floors while everyone else ignored you. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Some people looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Others were leaning forward, eager to see where this was going. Meghan took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. Graham, I think you're twisting my words. I'm not twisting anything, Graham said, and now there was real steel in his voice. I'm reading back exactly what you said and pointing out that it doesn't match reality. That's not twisting, that's fact-checking. This is ridiculous, Meghan said, her voice rising. I've been through so much. I've suffered so much. And here you are trying to make me look like a liar on national television. Nobody's trying to make you look like anything, Graham shot back. You're doing that all by yourself by not being straight with people. If you want to be believed and taken seriously, you need to tell the truth, not your version of the truth, not your feelings about the truth, but the actual truth. Meghan stood up suddenly, startling everyone. I don't have to sit here and take this. Sit down, please, Graham said calmly. We're not finished. Yes, we are, Meghan snapped. I'm not going to be treated like this. You agreed to come on this show, Graham reminded her, his voice getting louder. You knew it was a talk show, not a promotional tour, where everyone kisses your backside and agrees with everything you say. If you make claims, especially serious ones about racism and mental health, you need to be prepared to back them up. Are you calling me a liar? Meghan demanded, her voice shaking with anger now. I'm saying you've been caught out saying things that aren't true, Graham said bluntly, multiple times. And instead of owning it and apologizing, you keep making excuses and playing the victim. The audience gasped. Someone in the back actually said, "Oh my God," loud enough for the microphones to pick up. Meghan's hands were shaking. How dare you? You have no idea what I've been through. Then tell us, Graham challenged. Tell us the truth, the whole truth, without the exaggerations and the contradictions. Because right now, nobody knows what to believe anymore. Meghan pointed a finger at Graham, her voice getting louder with each word. You are a bully. You're doing exactly what the British press did to me, attacking me, trying to destroy me. I'm asking you questions, Graham said, not backing down at all. If you can't handle questions, you shouldn't be doing interviews. And you certainly shouldn't be going on television making serious accusations about people who can't defend themselves. They can defend themselves, Meghan shot back. They've got the entire British media on their side. Do they, though? Graham asked. Because from where I'm sitting, you've had Oprah, you've had Netflix, you've had book deals, you've had every major American media outlet treating you like royalty, while you throw the actual royal family under the bus. And every time someone questions your story, you claim you're being silenced. You're not being silenced. You're everywhere. You won't shut up. The audience made noise at that, some people laughing nervously, others gasping at how direct Graham was being. Meghan's face was bright red now. This is unbelievable. I came here in good faith. Good faith? Graham repeated. You came here expecting me to let you spin more stories without challenge. That's not good faith. That's delusion. I'm leaving, Meghan announced, turning toward the exit. That's probably best, Graham said coldly. Before you tell us something else that turns out to be bollocks. Meghan whirled back around, her eyes blazing. What did you just say? You heard me, Graham said, standing up now too. How many more lies are we supposed to swallow? How many more times are we supposed to nod along while you rewrite history to make yourself look better? I have never lied, Meghan insisted, her voice getting shrill. Really? Graham grabbed another card. Let's talk about the letter to your father then. You said you wrote it knowing it would be leaked. Then in court, you said you had no idea it would be leaked And you expected privacy. Which is it? Because both can't be true. Meghan opened and closed her mouth, struggling to find words. That's private legal matters. It's public record, Graham countered. You lost that privacy argument in court because the judge didn't believe you. Your own emails showed you knew that letter might be made public. You're taking things out of context again, Meghan said desperately. What context? Graham demanded. What possible context makes it okay to say two completely opposite things? Either you expected privacy or you didn't. You can't have it both ways depending on which story suits you better at the moment. Some people in the audience started clapping. Not everyone, but enough that it was noticeable. Meghan looked at them with shock and betrayal on her face. Shut up, she said to the audience, her voice venomous. You don't know anything about what I've been through. Excuse me, Graham said, his voice dangerous now. You do not tell my audience to shut up. This is my show. These are my guests in this audience, and you will show them respect. They're clapping while you bully me, Meghan shouted. They're clapping because they're tired of the lies, Graham shouted back. They're tired of watching you play the victim while you're making millions off trashing a family that took you in. Took me in? Meghan laughed bitterly. They destroyed me. They made my life hell. They drove me to thoughts of suicide. And that's a very serious claim, Graham said, his voice dropping lower, but somehow more intense. Mental health is not something to joke about or to use as a weapon. If you really felt that way, I'm genuinely sorry. But you also said the palace refused to let you get help, that you couldn't go to a hospital or see a therapist because of protocol. That's right, Meghan said firmly. Except Harry's mother, Diana, got help. She had therapy. She spoke to counselors. Harry himself has been very public about getting therapy. So why would they let everyone else get mental health treatment but specifically refuse you? Meghan stammered. It was different. My situation was different. Or did you maybe not ask in the way you said you did? Graham suggested. Because members of the palace staff have anonymously said that you never formally requested mental health support through proper channels. They said if you had, it would have been arranged immediately, just like it was for other family members. They're lying to protect themselves, Meghan insisted. Everyone's lying except you. Is that it? Graham asked sarcastically. The palace is lying. The archbishop is lying. The staff members are lying. Your own emails that contradict your story are somehow lying. But you're the only one telling the truth? Yes, Meghan said, her chin jutting out stubbornly. Graham shook his head slowly. Do you hear yourself? Do you understand how that sounds? The entire world is in a conspiracy against you, but you're the sole voice of truth and reason. When you're fighting a powerful institution, yes, that's exactly how it works, Meghan said. You're not David fighting Goliath, Graham said with disgust in his voice. You're a wealthy woman with massive platforms making money by playing victim. And the sad thing is, you probably did experience some difficult things. Marrying into that family can't be easy. I'm sure there were challenges and adjustments and moments of real struggle. But you've exaggerated and embellished so much that nobody knows what's real anymore. Everything I've said is real, Meghan said, but her voice had lost some of its conviction. Is it? Graham pressed. Was it real when you said you didn't know anything about Harry or the royal family before you met him, even though there are old blog posts of yours talking about William and Kate's wedding? Was it real when you said you never Googled Harry, when clearly you knew who he was? Was it real when you said you gave up your career for him, when your TV show was ending anyway? Stop it, Meghan said, her voice cracking slightly. Was it real when you claimed someone in the family asked about Archie's skin color, then Harry later said it wasn't quite like that, and then you both refused to say who it was, leaving everyone to suspect the worst about innocent people who can't defend themselves? There were concerns, Meghan said weakly. Concerns about what exactly? Graham demanded. Because concerns and racist comments are very different things. And by being vague and refusing to clarify, you've let people assume the worst. You've let people think there were racist royals making horrible statements when maybe, just maybe, it was an innocent question that got misinterpreted. It wasn't innocent, Meghan snapped, some fire coming back. You weren't there. You don't know what was said or how it was said. Neither does anyone else, because you won't tell us, Graham shot back. You make these huge accusations. You damage reputations. You destroy relationships. And then you hide behind vague statements and refuse to give details. That's not brave. That's cowardly. How dare you call me a coward? Meghan said, stepping toward him aggressively. What else do you call someone who makes accusations but won't back them up? Graham didn't move, didn't flinch. What do you call someone who plays the racism card but won't say exactly what happened? You've painted the entire royal family as racist with one broad brush, and when people ask for specifics, you go silent. I protected them by not saying who it was, Meghan argued. Protected them? Graham laughed harshly. You protected nobody. By not naming the person, you made everyone suspicious of all of them. Harry's father, his brother, his grandparents when they were still alive. Everyone's been under suspicion because you wouldn't clarify. That's not protection. That's cruelty. Meghan's eyes were filling with tears now, but they looked like angry tears, not sad ones. You're being so unfair. I'm being honest, Graham corrected. Maybe for the first time in a long time, someone is being completely honest with you instead of tiptoeing around your feelings. My feelings? Meghan's voice rose again. You think this is about my feelings? I think everything is about your feelings, Graham said bluntly. I think you view the entire world through the lens of how it affects you. Those staff members who left because they said you bullied them? You claimed you were the one being bullied. The investigation happened, but the results were never published. Why? What did they find? That was a hit job, Meghan said quickly. Those people were out to get me from day one. All of them? Graham asked skeptically. Every single staff member who left was part of a conspiracy? Or maybe, just maybe, you're actually difficult to work with. Maybe you did make people cry. Maybe you did send emails at 5 a.m. demanding things. Maybe you were, in fact, Duchess difficult, like they said. I have high standards, Meghan defended herself. I expect excellence. If that makes me difficult, then fine. There's a difference between high standards and being cruel, Graham said quietly. And making your staff cry isn't about standards. That's about how you treat people. You don't know what you're talking about, Meghan said, her voice shaking with rage now. Then tell me I'm wrong, Graham challenged. Look at me, and tell me you never made anyone cry. Tell me you never sent harsh emails. Tell me every single one of those staff members was lying. Meghan stared at him, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. You can't, can you? Graham said softly. Because that one might actually be true. Screw you, Meghan said suddenly, shocking everyone with the language. There it is, Graham said, almost triumphantly. There's the real person. Not the polished princess, not the humanitarian, not the victim. Just someone who's angry that they're finally being held accountable. I don't have to take this, Meghan said again, turning back toward the exit. No, you don't, Graham agreed. You can leave right now. You can go back to California and do another friendly interview where nobody asks hard questions. You can go on another podcast and talk about your truth and your journey and your empowerment. But you can't keep expecting everyone to believe you when your stories keep changing. Meghan stopped walking and stood there with her back to him, her shoulders rigid. Do you want to know what's really sad? Graham continued, his voice softer now but still firm. You probably did experience real difficulties. There probably were real challenges and real moments of struggle. But you've cried wolf so many times with exaggerations and contradictions that now, even when you might be telling the truth, nobody believes you. You did that to yourself. Meghan turned around slowly, and her face was a mask of pure fury. I did nothing to myself. This family, this country, this system did it to me. Take some responsibility, Graham said, his voice getting louder again. For once in your life, take some damn responsibility. You made choices. You said things that weren't true. You hurt people with your accusations. You caused real pain to people who, by all accounts, tried to welcome you. Own it. I won't own lies, Meghan said firmly. Then we're done here, Graham said, and there was finality in his voice. If you can't be honest with me, with this audience, with yourself, then there's no point continuing this conversation. Are you telling me to leave? Meghan asked, her voice dangerous. I'm saying that unless you're ready to have a real conversation based on facts instead of feelings, based on truth instead of your truth, then yes, perhaps you should go, Graham said clearly. The audience was absolutely silent. People were barely breathing, watching this confrontation unfold like a car crash they couldn't look away from. Meghan looked at Graham, then at the audience, then back at Graham. "You're actually telling me to leave your show?" "I'm giving you a choice," Graham said. "Stay and have an honest conversation, or leave and keep playing the victim somewhere else." "Fine," Meghan said, her voice ice cold. "I'll leave. I'll leave your terrible show and your terrible country, and I'll never come back." "You said that before, and yet here you are," Graham pointed out. "Funny how you keep coming back to the country that you claim treated you so badly." "Only because I have to for work," Meghan snapped. "Right, for work," Graham said sarcastically. "For those projects you're doing that somehow always involve talking about the royal family, even though you claim you want privacy and to move on." "This is unbelievable," Meghan said, grabbing her purse from beside the couch. "This is absolutely unbelievable. What's unbelievable is that you thought you could come on here and not be challenged," Graham said. "This isn't America where you get softball questions and sympathy. This is my show, and I ask the questions people want answered. Your show is trash," Meghan said viciously. "And you're a has-been who needs controversy to stay relevant." The audience gasped again, and some people booed. Actually booed her. Graham smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. "And you're someone who married a prince thinking it would be easy fame and fortune. And when it turned out, you actually had to work and follow rules and not be the center of attention every second. You couldn't handle it." "You know nothing about me," Meghan shouted. "I know enough," Graham shouted back. "I know you've hurt people who tried to help you. I know you've made accusations you can't or won't back up. I know you've changed your story more times than most people change their clothes. I know that whatever sympathy people had for you at the beginning has evaporated because you can't stop playing games." "I'm done with this," Meghan said, heading for the exit again. "You've been done with lots of things," Graham called after her. "Your acting career, your first marriage, your relationship with your father, your royal duties. You're very good at walking away when things get difficult." Meghan stopped at the edge of the stage, turned back one final time. "You're a bastard, and you're a liar," Graham said simply. "Now please leave my show." Meghan made a noise that was something between a scream and a growl, then stormed off the stage. The cameras followed her as she went, capturing her furious expression, the way she shoved past a producer who tried to talk to her, the sound of her heels clicking rapidly as she headed for the exit. The audience didn't know what to do. Some people started clapping, then others joined in, and soon there was genuine applause building. Not for Meghan, but for Graham, for saying what so many people had been thinking. Graham stood there on his stage, straightening his jacket, looking tired but satisfied. "Well," he said to the camera, "that went about as expected." The audience laughed, the tension breaking slightly. When someone builds their entire brand on being a victim, they don't respond well to being held accountable, Graham continued, speaking directly to the camera now. They storm off, they throw insults, they play the wounded party. But the truth matters. Facts matter. And we deserve better than to be fed stories that change depending on which interview we're watching. Someone in the audience shouted, "Thank you, Graham," and others cheered. The cameras caught one final shot of the backstage area, where Meghan could be seen yelling at someone, her arms waving, her face red, before she disappeared entirely from view. Graham sat back down on his couch, picked up his drink, and took a sip. "Right then," he said with a slight smile. "Who's my next guest?"